You are in the middle of telling the story again. You know the one you always tell that gets the biggest laughs or the most serious reaction. You know this part well, the part where you explain what happened, exactly what words to use, what that other person did, why it matters. You have told it so many times, you know exactly where the other person will nod, exactly where they will wince, exactly when to pause, exactly when the other person will laugh, exactly what you will say when, and exactly when to land the joke. And somewhere in the middle of telling it this time, suddenly you feel something weird. The words are right, but the feeling is gone. The spark in you is muted. You are not reliving and feeling the story anymore like you used to. It has become a recitation. And underneath it, a quiet discomfort arises. If this story no longer carries feeling, why are you still telling it? Why are you still carrying it? This month we have walked around one flame from 3 directions. In the first week, we stepped into myth itself, into the story of Prometheus, the titan who stole fire from the gods and bore the horrendous punishment of that theft without internal surrender. In the second week, we met the defiant sovereign, the archetype at the heart of the Promethean myth, a person who stays strong internally in themselves no matter what happens in the outer circumstances. In week 3, we descended into our shadow. We looked at the places inside where sovereignty became rigidity, where self-protection became a self-made prison. And now, as we close this month's ritual, we come to a powerful poem, one that's not inherently mystical, but because it is one of the most enduring declarations of inner sovereignty ever put into words, in my opinion, it definitely belongs here. William Ernest Henley wrote Invictus in 1875 from a hospital bed while fighting the tuberculosis that had already cost him a leg. He wrote it from within his own deep suffering, which makes what he writes even more powerful, even more affecting. Out of the night that covers me, black as the pit from pole to pole, I thank whatever gods may be for my unconquerable soul. In the fell clutch of circumstance, I have not winced nor cried aloud. Under the bludgeonings of chance, my head is bloody, but unbowed. Beyond this place of wrath and tears looms but the horror of the shade, and yet the menace of the years finds and shall find me unafraid. It matters not how strait the gate or how charged with punishments the scroll. I am the master of my fate. I am the captain of my soul. That gets me every single time, even though I've read it like 1,000 times. Get this feeling of heaviness and defiance all mixed together here. The idea that I could defy anyone or anything, even eternity itself, that's a mind-bending concept, and its implications are powerful, but to me, also kind of uncomfortable. And I'm a person who loves sitting with discomfort. So in this poem, Henley does not deny the darkness or pretend that living as a human is not brutal. He carries it black as the night from pole to pole. He does not soften the bludgeonings of chance. He stands inside all of it, eyes open, head bloody, but standing tall. And then he does something even more difficult. He looks beyond the moment towards something that Prometheus also faced, the feeling of inevitability. And maybe that's what makes me uncomfortable. The horror is not only what's happening now, it is the knowledge that time will continue and that the years will shape and change us quietly and consistently. And this happens through the patterns we repeat over and over again in our lives, in our minds, in our emotions. And this is where the poem moves beyond that defiance we keep talking about, because what Henley is naming is beyond endurance. It is a map and an orientation. The grooves worn deep by years of responding to life in the same way over and over again. The habits of thought, the reflexes of emotion, the postures we take under pressure that slowly become the architecture or the interior castle of who we are. What begins as reaction becomes identity when repeated over and over again. And what's repeated over and over again becomes fate. We are the masters of our fate because our repeated actions create our reality, not just because we are internally defiant to external forces. The Stoics understood this with extraordinary clarity. They gave us the practice of logos, as we talked about last time, which is the capacity to remain internally coherent within the idea of fate. This is acting from a space of sovereignty and understanding instead of reacting impulsively. There's an old Greek story about a man named Epictetus who was born into slavery. And one day his master began to twist his leg slowly and deliberately. Epictetus said calmly, "You will break my leg." The master continued anyway, and the leg broke. And Epictetus, without raising his voice, simply said, "I told you that you were going to break it." And later, reflecting on a life lived under these horrendous conditions, he spoke these wise words: "You may fetter my leg, but not even Zeus has the power to break my will." This is the meeting point of everything we've been walking through this month. Prometheus on his cliff, Henley in his hospital bed, and Epictetus in his chains. None of them were free in the way that we tend to imagine freedom. All of them were bound by Ananke. They were bound by fate, by necessity, by conditions that did not yield to their preference or their desires. And yet each of them discovered that sovereignty cannot be taken unless it is surrendered. The question is not whether pressure will come in your life. It's going to. The question is what within you remains when it does come up. But there is a subtle danger in this territory. The idea of being unbreakable can become another form of armor, as we spoke about before. It is important that inner sovereignty doesn't become resistance for the sake of resistance. Although the stubborn inner rebel in me loves that idea, right? Okay, so Mystic Traveler, what belongs to your inner life so completely that no circumstance, no punishment, no accumulation of years can take it from you? Tell me what that is in the comments. What is there within you when everything else is stripped away? And so this month's ritual ends. Go in peace, Mystic Travelers. Keep your inner flame burning bright, no matter what external circumstances force upon you. Thank you for being here. I'll see you next month.